Well, hello there. Good evening. Round two. uh, I just did like 10 minutes of the video and realized my microphone wasn't on. It is one of those days. I am on the struggle bus and it is 10:15 p.m. on January 3rd. And I'm finally getting around to these videos. Oh my God. I've had the astrology done. I did a presentation for the Morro Bay Metaphysicians on Friday and yesterday. Um, So I've had it all ready to go. I just have not been able to pull it together with getting in front of the camera. But here I am, and I am going lightning bolt strong. Jesus. Oh my God. All I can do is laugh at myself right now. It's like, it is such a challenge. Oh, let's get into it. 2026, we're going to do an overview here. And of course, I'm not going to cover everything that's going to happen throughout the year, but these are the big ones. And, if you look online, almost and all the astrologers agree. What are the big things happening this year? Let's start with a little bit of numerology. The year, if you add up the digits 226, you get a 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So it is 1 year, numerologically speaking. 1 year is all about new beginnings, pioneering energy, fresh starts, initiation. So this is, you know, feeling like a big opportunity to kind of recreate what we want to see in the world. How do we want to experience the world? Fresh start, baby. And if, when we get into the astrology with Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries and doing a conjunction at 0 degree Aries, that just further reiterates, changing from the last sign to the first sign of the zodiac. A big, huge, brand new initiation cycle. I mean, this is historic, right? The last time, and I should talk about this later, but the last time that Saturn and Neptune were together at 0 degrees of Aries was like 9,000 years ago. Like 7,000 or yeah, 7,000 BC, like the birth of the agricultural revolution. So, whew, big stuff. Um, I got my matcha tea. I got my other tea. Let's do this. I'm ready to go. So we'll start with the basics, the little guys. Mercury retrograde, 3 phases over the year. February 25th, September, no, February 25th to March 20th. Going to be reviewing 22 back to 8 degrees of Pisces. Then on June 29th till July 23rd, we're going to be reviewing 26 to 16 degrees of Cancer. Notice how I'm going backwards in the numbers. And then October 24th through November 13th, we'll have 8 degrees back to 5 degrees of Scorpio. And that one's kind of suspect to me because only 3 degrees, that doesn't seem right. So I'll have to double check that. But, that's all the way in October. I'm sure I'll talk about it before then. But what's interesting is that all these Mercury retrogrades are happening in water signs. Ooh. Time to review our emotional selves. How do we want to connect with ourselves and others emotionally? That is probably going to be a big theme this year. Interesting enough. And on that note, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, expanding the emotions, expanding our emotional selves, increasing the feeling state. Jupiter's going to be reviewing 25 degrees of Cancer back to 15. That'll start on, it already started November 11th of 25, 11/11, and it's going back until March 10th of 26. So we're already in that Jupiter retrograde of Cancer. So that's a start to the year. And then there'll be a second Jupiter retrograde at the end of the year on 12/12. There's those numbers again. 12/12/26 until April 12th of 27. And that will be covering 27 degrees back to basically 17 degrees of Leo. 16 degrees, 59 minutes, 17 degrees. So 27 to 17 of Leo at the end of the year. There's also a Venus retrograde happening this year. It'll start on October 3rd, going back to November 13th, and it'll cover 8.5 degrees of Scorpio back to basically 23 degrees of Libra. So that is interesting. I think I'll talk about that more in a minute. Saturn's retrograde, he stays in Aries for his retrograde, July 26th until December 10th. That's a big one. 5 months of Saturn retrograde. Oh boy. Going from 14 degrees of Aries back to basically 8 degrees of Aries, 755. Yep, that's July till December. Then we have a Uranus retrograde starting on, we're in a Uranus retrograde. It started on September 5th, 2025, and it goes back until February 3rd of 26, so another month from today. It started at 1 degree 27 minutes of Gemini, so we just got a taste of what Uranus in Gemini is. And it's going to go back until 27 degrees 27 minutes of Taurus, 27 by February 3rd. Yeah. And then there's a second retrograde of Uranus, September 10th again, going back to again February 8th of 27, and it'll cover 5 degrees back to 1 degree of Gemini. So we're only going to get up to 5 degrees Gemini this year. So the whole year is me covering the first 5 degrees of Gemini. So talk about initiations and new beginnings. So Neptune retrograde, July 7th to December 12th, 12/12/26. It's going to start at 4 degrees and move back to 1 degree of Aries. Again, just the beginning. We're only going to see the first 4 degrees of Neptune and Aries this year. And then Pluto retrograde starts on May 6th, goes back to October 15th, and that's going to cover 5 degrees back to 3 degrees of Aquarius. So just a 2-degree retrograde over the course of 5 months. So anything within, 3 to 5 degrees in your chart is going to be affected, especially if it's in Aquarius. You'll feel, 2 to 6, but technically 3 to 5 is what it's going to be covering. And then Chiron retrograde, we've been in since July 30th. It stationed direct yesterday on January 2nd. It covered 27 back to 22 degrees of Aries. So we've had Chiron retrograde since July, end of July. And then there's a second one starting August 3rd, going all the way back to January 6th of 27. And that's going to cover 0 degrees of Taurus back to 26 degrees of Aries. So literally we're going to end of July, we're going to cross over Chiron into Taurus. And then by August 3rd, it's going to immediately turn around, go right back out, come back to Aries, and review the last 4 degrees of Aries by January of 27. And then it'll go forward again into Taurus. So that's some wild stuff. So there's a whole bunch of major configurations that are going to happen over the year, of course. These are like, you've heard of a grand trine or a grand square, grand cross. There's so many of these like geometrical patterns with planets, multiple planets forming geometrical shapes. There's the trines, there's the squares, there's the cradles, there's the T-square, the yod, so many different ones. I can't really cover them all in this video, but what is really interesting, and I kind of made note of several of the dynamics happening on. We have minor grand trine in January 16th. So Mars, Sun, and Venus, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, are kind of traveling together for quite a while, and they're going to trine Uranus and both sextile Saturn and Neptune. And this is direct on January 16th, but we're already going to be starting to feel this soon. Back in December, we had Uranus trine Pluto, sextile Neptune all month long. And now, whereas this is quite significant, it's lesser planets involved. So instead of Pluto trine Uranus, now we have Mars, Sun, and Venus. So more personal planets trining Uranus and both sextiling Saturn, Neptune. This is like feeling radical shifts in the disillusionment of our collective structure, which is initiated by the feminine energy, and it's followed by the masculine. One of the grand configurations that I wanted to remark about, and sorry, I phrased that wrong, but I should say one of the dates that I want to focus on, where a lot is happening. Before I get to that, just note that July 18th, there's both a cradle and a kite happening at the same time. The cradle is Pluto, and it's the Jupiter opposite Pluto with Neptune and Uranus involved. So basically, you have a Pluto Jupiter opposition, and then Neptune and Uranus are kind of like trying to reconcile that polarity. And then the kite is the moon opposite Neptune with Pluto and Uranus on either side helping out that opposition. So think of what the child opposing Neptune, the mystical delusion maker, would feel like, and then both of the change agents, deep dark transformation of Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini, are supporting that opposition. I would like to go into these more, of course. Very few astrologers go into these grand configurations. They'll talk about grand trines and grand squares, but not so much the wedges, the cradles, the kites. And if you've been watching my videos, you know that I do cover these, which are pretty wild. It's kind of like, what's the complexity that's happening? But let me get back to what I really wanted to focus on real quick. Happening on August 10th of this year, 2026, we have a wedge, a grand trine, and two different kites all happening, perfecting on the same day, in addition to a mystical rectangle. And I don't think I've ever even covered a mystical rectangle, but just the fact that there's a wedge, a grand trine, two kites, and a mystical rectangle all on the same day is just like mind blowing. So look out for August 10th. um, a mystical rectangle is kind of like how you conceive of it. Like if you created a rectangle with 4 points, and basically these two are in a sextile and these two are in a sextile, so they're helping each other. But then the points across from each other are oppositions. So it's two oppositions and two sextiles. So two polarities and two supports. Um, yeah, and then I believe the outside are trines. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. Let's see, sextile Pluto and Venus. Yeah, so Pluto is opposite Mercury. Neptune is opposite Venus. And so Pluto is trine Venus while Mercury is trine Uranus. It's pretty crazy. Um, but let's get back to covering more about what we can in this year. I don't want this video to go too long. You guys will sue me. But there's so much to cover. Mars conjunctions. January 27th, we have a Mars conjunct Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So imagine Mars energy. It's moving, doing, going, activating, intensifying, increasing, lending electricity and power and energy. So it just basically intensifies the other planet. So conjunct Pluto, it's like a moment of even more transformation of our society, Pluto and Aquarius. It's bigger explosions, it's massive change. January 27th, that's just like 3 weeks from now almost, at 3 degrees of Aquarius. Then there's a Mars conjunct Neptune. So basically, Mars is just going down the line. Not in total respective order, but almost. So Mars conjunct Pluto, then Mars conjunct Neptune on April 13th. That's happening at 2 degrees of Aries. Then a Mars conjunct Saturn, April 19th at 7 degrees of Aries. So those are, think of April 13th through April 19th. Mars is conjunct, well, it's crossing over that Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's been going on forever. Here they're 5 degrees apart, so they're not totally working together anymore, but Mars is going to go bing, bing at 2 degrees and 7 degrees of Aries. So that'll be intense. And then Mars conjunct Uranus, July 4th. Excuse the whistle. Independence Day of 2026, that's going to be a firecracker for sure. Mars and Uranus, it's like the spark with just more. And that's happening at 3 degrees Gemini. So AI revolution, maybe that is very likely an effect. And then lastly, Mars conjunct Jupiter on November 16th at 25 degrees of Leo. Forgive my lack of eye contact. There's just so much to cover that I have to actually look at my computer. So that's why I don't stare into the phone the whole time. But yeah, so just to highlight Mars conjunct Pluto that's happening on January 27th in like 3.5 weeks. There was some dates for you to feel into what Mars conjunct Pluto felt like and or will feel like. March 3rd of 2022, there was a Mars conjunct Pluto. February 14th of 2024, January 27th, like I said, of this year, we're going to have one. And then the next one will be January 11th of 2028. So just some volatile days to think about. It can bring I'm going to read a little bit here. It can bring an incredible increase of ambition, sex drive, and lust for power. A tendency towards selfishness can lead to ruthless behavior and even violence if something stands in your way. You cannot ignore this powerful energy. Trying to bury it will only result in outbursts of temper or subversive action. It may manifest in people or events around you if you don't chase your desires and express this willful energy. And this would be more dangerous as you have less control over such situations. You can be selfish while also not harming others. This is an excellent time to work independently on something if you are passionate about it. So a lot of energy. You will have the endurance and strength to succeed at complex tasks. A burst of creativity can be used to make significant transformations in your life. Yeah. So Uranus trine Pluto, another big one. We've been experiencing this basically since July of 2025, and it's going to go until May 2029. The exact trines occur 5 times between July of 2026 and May of 2028, but I said we've been feeling it like a year more on either side. There was a trine on August 20th of 2025 at 1 degree of Gemini, Aries, and Aquarius. This next one will be July 18th, 2026 at 4 degrees of Gemini, Aries, and Aquarius. So that's sorry. The August 20th of 2025 was a minor grand trine with Uranus trine Pluto, both sextiling Saturn and Neptune. And that was at 1 degree of Aquarius. I believe July 18th, Saturn and Neptune will both be involved still at 4 degrees of Gemini, Aries, and Aquarius. And then there's another grand trine, and I think Saturn and Neptune have already moved on at this point. But in November 29th of 2026, Uranus and Pluto will be at 3 degrees of Gemini and Aquarius. And June 15th of 2027, they'll be at 6 degrees. And then there's another one on January 13th of 2028 and another one on May 9th of 2028. And I'll talk about those more later. The next phase of this happening is not until 2063, December 18th of 2063. And the last one in that cycle will be in September of 2065. So a long time from now, 40 years from now. 40, yeah. Almost 40 years. So this has been major political, social upheaval, economic change, consolidation of power in the hands of a few individuals. The last time there was this, let me just see something here real quick. Yeah, the last time there was trines between Uranus and Pluto was 1921 and 22, which saw the rise of Hitler and Stalin the founding politics of communism and fascism. So we may again be headed for more radical social, economic, and political change. However, the significant differences in associated aspects between then and now. This is a good reason to be uh, kind of optimistic, yeah, about more enlightened and ethical changes, exciting new medical breakthroughs, and technological discoveries. Changes will be occurring around you that allow for greater personal freedom. However, you will also undergo a transformation on the inside, facilitated by a more adventurous, optimistic, and progressive outlook. Yeah, during the last series of Uranus Pluto trines in 2122, Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin came to power. Chinese Communist Party, the Spanish Communist Party, the the USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and the National Fascist Party in Italy were all founded. There was hyperinflation in Germany. The Irish War of Independence ended with a truce. Revolutions in Greece, Turkey, and elsewhere. Famine in Russia killed 5 million people. Discovery of the hormone insulin. First public radio broadcast, and discovery of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. So yeah, little stuff, you know. Jupiter. Jupiter's been in Cancer since June 9th of 25, and it'll be there until June 29th of 2026. So the first 6 months of this year will have Jupiter still in Cancer. And that's like, you know, expanding the need for care, for nurturing, for mothering, focusing on the home, trying to get our home situated and ready for all these big changes coming in this year. Oh boy. So on June 29th, Jupiter will move into Leo. This is an expansion of creativity, self expression, leadership, joyful playfulness, where we focus on matters of the heart. This can be an opportunity to learn about the arts and develop and explore our talents, recognizing a stronger need for recreation, entertainment, and romantic expression. Love is in the air. So, Jupiter retrograde, like I said, started on 11/11 and goes to 11/11 of 25 and goes to March 10th of 26 in Cancer, and then December 12th to May 12th, 26 to 27 will be in Leo, 27 to 17 degrees. Mm. With Jupiter and Leo in general, and particularly when fueled by the Pluto opposition, there is a strong push for people to reclaim their authority from a system that feels too abstract and detached from lived reality. Jupiter also forms a harmonious trine with Neptune in Aries, and a few months into the transit with Saturn in Aries as well, helping us anchor our vision and inspiration and responsibility. This is a fire trine which restores our sense of purpose and agency. We are no longer called to live out other people's dreams, but to stand behind our own. So this might be the fire, the spark, the time to step into your own leadership and your own visions of projects. Epicenters. My big project, Epicenters. If you don't know about it, ask me about it. Big vision project, one I've carried for way too long, and it's so time. I so wish I was living there right now. I digress again. Okay, where are we? Neptune re enters Aries. There was a little dip between March 30th of 25 and October 22nd of 25, where Neptune tasted Aries. Now it's going, and then it came back into Pisces since October. Now it's going back into Aries on January 26th, and it'll be there until May 21st of 2038. So for the next 12 years, basically, 14 years, because it'll retrograde out in 2038 and then come back in 2039 as well. So yeah, 14 years from March 30th, 2025 until March 23rd of 2039. It's like 14 years that Neptune is in each sign, 165 to get all the way around the zodiac. And right now, Neptune and Saturn are both crossing that 0 point of the zodiac, which is like if there was ever a fresh start or a fresh new cycle, that's it. 165-year cycle. New approaches to spirituality can figure strongly, and compassionate acts can be a goal. Aries is too stern to express itself compassionately, preferring action and revolution to express its care. We're ready to reject and do away with dogma. The need for change and innovation is felt intimately and intuitively. Then Saturn dipped into Aries May 24th of 2025, and then retrograded back into Pisces September 1st. And then now it's going to go into Aries again February 13th, day before Valentine's, and it'll be there until April 12th of 2028. So with Saturn and Aries, we're assessing whether our systems are working regarding how we use our initiative, exercise our independence, express ourselves authentically, and assert ourselves effectively. With Saturn, a desire to gain control is present. Some of us might attempt to control people in our lives, but this is a difficult and frustrating path eventually. And ideally, we understand that it is only ourselves that we can control. It is only ourselves. That's from the Matrix. With Saturn and Aries, we also recognize that we are more responsible for ourselves. We impact and improve the collective. That as we are more responsible for ourselves, we impact and improve the collective. Yep. Take responsibility for yourselves. So the next one's the big one. Saturn-Neptune conjunction, as if these aren't all big, right? Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. Between June 29th and August 1st of 2025, the two planets were within half a degree of one another. So we already got a taste of what this is. June to August. We've been feeling this energy since April of 2025 because they became close enough to where they affect each other. April 2025 was the first month when the U.S. administration announced tariffs, dubbed the World War trade in the press. What followed was a scramble to rewire partnerships and the sobering realization that decades-long alliances were breaking up and new power blocks could be formed, right? Like the Axis powers is like what we're aligning ourselves with now. It's so crazy. Talk about World War next. The last significant conjunction at this specific degree occurred over 9,000 years ago, like I mentioned in the beginning. 7,000 BC, basically the birth of agriculture. So the exact conjunction at 0 degrees is on February 20th, 2026. The conjunction between Saturn and Neptune happens every 36 years. It's just this one is happening at 0 degrees of Aries, which is the 0 point of the zodiac. 0 degrees in Aries, this conjunction has never before occurred in recorded history. Marks a complete reset of the world where reality becomes malleable and the rules are rewritten. Digital, ideological, and political walls will fall, ushering in an unprecedented spiritual renaissance. Oh, please. A leadership based on purpose and vision will emerge, seeking to unite science and spirituality, technology and ethics. Saturn will give form to the invisible, and Neptune will restore soul to the material. Let us hope. Next is Uranus re-entering Gemini. So it first dipped in July 7th of 25, retrograded out November 7th of 25, and then it'll go back into Gemini April 25th of 26, and it'll stay there until August 3rd of 2032. So, known for questioning the way things are and considering different perspectives, the signs of the twins, Gemini, could bring ingenious reforms in communication, social media, transportation, and the economy. Advances in AI technology could also rapidly accelerate. Yeah. What are we going to do about this whole AI tech revolution? It's a big one. Venus retrograde, I mentioned earlier. Basically, Venus has been in the underworld in Scorpio, and she's going to go backwards, kind of revisiting the first 8 degrees of Scorpio, go back to 22 degrees of Libra. So looking back into partnership, justice, and balance. And the last time Venus retrograde, which is basically an 8-year cycle, last time it retrograded in these signs was back in 2018. So the other big one is Pluto in Aquarius, and everybody has been talking about this forever. The collective is reclaiming its power. There's a chance for everyone to figure out their place in society. This is a deep transformation of society as we all journey into the underworld to discover the dark secrets of the past and the hidden aspects of power affecting society. Really? Sound familiar? So Pluto dipped into 0 degrees of Aquarius back in 2023, March 23 of 2023, and went retrograde at 0. So it just touched Aquarius, and that happened until June 11th of 2023. Then it dipped in to 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius from January 20th, 2024 until September 1st of 2024. And then it dipped back in November 19th of 2024 at 0 degrees. And it's going to go all the way up to 29 degrees of Aquarius by March 8th of 2043, right? Pluto takes about 20 years to cover a sign. In March 8th of 2043, it'll turn around and do a retrograde at 29 degrees. And then between August 31st of 2043 and January 19th of 2044, we'll get a coverage, a revisit of the 29th degree of Aquarius. So the last time Pluto journeyed through Aquarius was between 1777 and 1798. At the time, the world balance of power massively shifted. These 2 decades saw the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. The Age of Enlightenment also reached a crescendo at this time. Chiron enters Taurus. So Chiron entered Aries in 2018. It dipped back in Pisces, then settled into Aries in early 2019 through June of 2026. Yeah, on June 19th of 2026, Chiron will move into Taurus. But then on September 17th, it will have retrograded back into Aries for a dip. And then between September 17th and April 14th of 2027, Chiron will be in Aries for a bit. But then on April 14th of 2027 until July 19th of 2033, we'll have Chiron in Taurus. So we've been going through a major healing around our identity and what it means to be a warrior, and specifically addressing the wounds of the masculine with Chiron and Aries. Chiron and Taurus turns our attentions to values, safety, how we've been building our sense of security, basically our foundation solid. Have we been building on our unhealed wounds or unprocessed experiences or narratives that no longer serve us? This transit in Taurus can stir early wounds around safety, stability, and self-worth, especially where we haven't felt supported or resourced in meeting our basic needs at different points along our life's journey. As always, Chiron is the wound, which is a gift in disguise. The very area of vulnerability becomes a source of strength, and lived experience acts as fuel, giving us the grit and grounded wisdom that ultimately becomes Chiron's real gift. Yeah. So lastly, not to make this video any longer, we have the shift of the nodal axis. So north node, south node of the moon, where the moon crosses the ecliptic, gives us the solar and lunar eclipses. So we're going to have a north node solar eclipse on February 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. Then we'll have a south node lunar eclipse at March 3rd of 26 at 12 degrees of Virgo. And then a south node solar eclipse August 12th, 20 degrees of Leo. And lastly, a north node lunar eclipse August 27th at 4 degrees Pisces. So basically, we're moving from Virgo Pisces eclipses to Leo Aquarius. So, and we'll have one more each of the Virgo and Pisces, March and August. But then 18 months basically of Leo and Aquarius. And there's a wide transition, as you can see, with the nodal axis. So we've been focused on health, sacrifice, service, and transcendence. Basically, a dichotomy between the individual versus the collective, ego versus personal creativity, and society versus humanitarian innovations and solutions. Then we'll switch from the mutable signs of Virgo and Pisces to the fixed signs of Leo and Aquarius, and basically being asked to consider the individual versus the divine polarity. Sorry, that was Pisces and Virgo. And moving to Aquarius and Leo is the self versus collective polarity. So the Pisces Virgo themes were drugs, drug trafficking, social work, spirituality, data and systems, borders, oceans, floods, oil industry, and fishing industry. And the Aquarius Leo themes are governments, presidents, political parties, DEI and human rights, cultural morality, scientific discoveries, parks, vacations, and luxury goods. Price of gold will swing. Stock markets will swing. Governs electricity, lightning, and windstorms, and healthcare. There we have it, folks. Whew. Some of the big things happening, some possibly frightening things, and some wonderful changes. Always an opportunity for us to make a shift, evolve, grow, learn, develop, and keep your halo behind you. Doesn't it look like I have a halo? It's so cool. Anyways, best of luck, all my love. Talk soon. Reach out, email me, um, check out my videos, and yeah, let's keep this roller coaster rolling. All right, love to you all. Ciao.